How we doing, Mets fans? Sorry about that slight delay on our end. I hope everybody is well during this snow day. Wow, we have a lot of Mets moves to cover, right? A lot of things have happened, of course. I want to get everybody's thoughts in the comment section as we go through this. Don't expect it to be long, but I did want to honestly get the fans' opinion today. I have an opinion of my own that I think is worth sharing because we're getting to that point in the offseason where, hey, we don't know what the future is, right? It doesn't feel like there's going to be many other moves on the horizon for the New York Mets. They could be done adding, right? And certainly in terms of offense, it could be that way. They could be very close to being done. Now, they can add another outfielder. I think there's a case at this point with the New York Mets to bring in another outfielder and solidify what is the unknown with Carson Bench. That is certainly a case at this point to sit here and say that Carson Bench is not ready to make the opening day roster. I feel that he is ready to make the opening day roster. I think the Mets are going to give him those ample opportunities in spring training to get that figured out. But that'll be a question, right? Do you have to bring in now another outfielder to cover the loss of not knowing when Carson Bench will be ready? Do you have that outfielder now? Is that Tyrone Taylor? Yeah, it certainly could be. But for me, my main objective is to make sure that Tyrone Taylor stays as the fourth outfielder of the New York Mets. I think that is the perfect opportunity. I think that is great for him. He's earned that opportunity. The Mets feel good in giving Tyrone Taylor that opportunity. So if you're going to go out and add a Austin Hayes or a Lars Nootbaar or one of these other, outfield names that are out there at this point, you're basically blocking out Tyrone Taylor. You're putting someone in between Tyrone Taylor and Carson Bench and kind of slotting Tyrone Taylor to become a fifth outfielder. Maybe defensively, Tyrone Taylor will always be the fourth outfielder. You can make a case he's the third outfielder, right? But the whole package with him kind of slots him into one of those areas, right? Depending on who you go and add. So for me, I'm bringing back Starling Marte to the New York Mets in 2026. And I think that's a decision I feel really strongly about because, again, what I just said, you're not putting pressure in between Tyrone Taylor and Carson Bench. You're allowing Carson Bench to even make the team opening day. But say he doesn't, you have protection. You know a guy that knows his role in Starling Marte. I think we undervalue a couple things with him. A player at this point in his career, 36, 37 years old, willing to take a role for the New York Mets. There's not many players that would, right? We talk about Eugenio Suarez as being a great piece to add to this team at this moment in time. He could play third, little DH. He's a great power bat, right side. But would Eugenio Suarez be willing to know his role for the New York Mets right now? The answer is probably no. He would want to be willing to be a starter on a team. He wouldn't want to be willing to be a part-time DH or even a DH for the Mets at all, right? So players that know their role is very important to me. And I look at Starling Marte as somebody who checks off a lot of boxes for the New York Mets in terms of positive things that he brings to the table. Let's break down some of his advanced stats, right? Because that's very important. Starling Marte, 270 batting average in the month of 2020, in the year of 2025, excuse me. I want to bring this up so you can all see it. I think that's beneficial to all of us. There's a lot of reasons to like Starling Marte. 270 batting average this year, but also like 111 OPS plus. He was 11% better than league average. There's a lot of things to like. He's a good clubhouse presence. That's not what I'm factoring into the numbers. But yes, when we talk about what transpired in 2025 with the New York Mets, I do want to see a more improved unit in terms of cohesion. And Starling Marte helps that. We're not pampering the Juan Soto. That's kind of not – that's the point that probably is going to go over a lot of people's heads when I say the name Starling Marte, because to most people, they don't think he has much value left to the game. I don't know how many games you guys watched last year, but the ones that Starling Marte played, he was very productive in. Specifically in that Atlanta game, I cited all the time, the defensive assist from the outfield. That was the best defensive assist from any outfielder last year. Juan Soto didn't have any better ones. Starling Marte put on a show, and he still has something left to give defensively. I do believe that. He's not going to be chasing down balls in the gaps. I'm well aware he has double groin surgery. He's not fleet of foot. But you can play him out there on a Sunday afternoon to spell a Carson Bench, to spell a Tyrone Taylor, to move things around and spell a Luis Robert. If you want to put Bench in center field, right? So there's ways to kind of go about this for the New York Mets, but I wanted to share my screen. And I think this is important because when we think about Starling Marte, he's been around a long time, right? Let's look at these numbers and let's just kind of dive into it, right? Because it is important to look at. Games played last year for Starling Marte. Hopefully this is centered. Excuse me. There we go. Perfect. 98 games in a Mets uniform last year. He didn't play a lot, right? But he knows his role. He can give you 100 games in a season. I think that's perfect. I'm not asking a lot from Starling Marte. DH 77 games. He played some outfield. He played 9 in left, 3 in right for the New York Mets. He had 329 plate appearances, blah, blah, blah. IL stint, yes, 270. Good contact, right? 335 on base, 410 slugging. It's not great numbers. I'm not sitting here and saying a 745 OPS is anything to write home about with Starling Marte. But there is a lot of things that go into what he brings to the Mets. And knowing your role is very important. He's the current stolen base leader in Major League Baseball. I don't factor that into giving him deals because he's not at the point where he's stealing bases consistently. But he steals 7. Okay. I mean, it's 7 extra stolen bases over the course of a season. Late in game, that can play. Now that the Mets don't have Luis Angel Acuna late in game to steal you some bags, I am looking for that late game presence for the New York Mets to steal you bags. Jet Williams is not here anymore, right? Marte is clearly not going to be able to steal every single one, which is why I look to other guys to pick it up as well. But it does help the bigger picture. And I think we all can agree if you can get extra experience on the base pads, that's important. This is, to me, what's very important. In the limited sample size, he was still 12% above league average. I think Baseball Reference is plus 11, plus 111. But still, it's not like he's taking away from the Mets. That's kind of the main point. He's not, again, 20% strikeout percentage, as it says, manageable, right? 318 batting average on balls in play. Fielding, right? He didn't have many opportunities to field the ball, and he was a replacement level player. But again, I look at Starling Marte and say I think there is something there that we may be overlooking as fans sometimes. We always want the best player. We always want the younger player. But when you think about the Mets right now, and it's very important to have a balance. And from anybody that you've heard who has played with the Mets in 24 and 25, Paul Blackburn has been on the record. Adam Ottavino, who knows these guys, obviously on the record. But Paul Blackburn specifically, he cited Jose Iglesias. He cited JD Martinez, these veteran presences that weren't in those locker rooms, being a big reason year to year why they faltered in their success, right? So if I look at Starling Marte and it's the last bat on the bench, I'm not complaining. I'm really not. So these are kind of the things that I personally look at, and it's not everybody's going to be doing this. I'm well aware. Some people think Starling Marte doesn't provide any value. I understand that. I do. But I just like to look at the bigger picture because I think it is important when we're getting to this point in the offseason where things are pretty solidified, right? You're pretty much at the point where I can tell you what the rotation is going to look like. Hopefully, there's going to be some changes, maybe. But the lineups, basically, you could slot in the 1 through 9 at this point. So let's go through that if you guys don't mind, because I think, again, this ties back into the Starling Marte conversation. It ties back into a lot of these conversations that we're having. We're going to get to some of your comments as well. Thank you all for being here. But I just want to take you guys through kind of my thought process. This is a good Mets team. I'm not doubting this Mets team. I don't think they're going to be an 80-win team. You hear some people still saying that kind of stuff. I think the moves over the past week have shown me that they're in a good position to win and win a lot of games in 2026. So keep your fingers crossed, Mets fans. That's the hope, for sure. But let's get to this lineup and allow me to get a little caffeine in my system. We'll keep it going. All right. Cool. So this lineup for me is pretty much what you could see on opening day for the New York Mets, right? Very similar. I don't, again, Lindor's leading off. We've had this conversation in the past. I don't see anybody emerging as the leadoff hitter for the Mets. There's no Jet Williams. There's no Luisano Acuna. The reason I'm batting Carson Bench ninth is to kind of lay that groundwork for him to become the eventual leadoff hitter for the Mets. Lindor has started to show his age. We can't sit here and ignore that obvious. He's still an elite player. I don't want to knock Lindor, but defensively, we started to see some slippage from him. And I don't think that's going to be a year-to-year thing. I think he'll be back defensively, but the cracks are starting to show. Age is a real thing, and Father Time doesn't slow down for anybody. But in 26, and odds are 27, I'm still starting Francisco Lindor as the leadoff hitter for the Mets. Juan Soto, number 2, Bo Bichette, number 3. This just makes the most sense. You could flip the two. I think the Mets are going to get to the point where they have Juan Soto as their 3 hitter, as he's around the ages of Aaron Judge, 30s, and then getting up there. They're going to build around him probably as the 3 hitter because that's what he's going to become. The speed, I don't know if he's always going to be stealing 30-plus bags. Who knows if that even repeats itself in 26. But definitely what we're looking at from a 2-3 perspective, I think Juan Soto, Bo Bichette makes the most sense. This is where you have to take a pause as a Mets fan because I don't know who the cleanup hitter is at this point, and that is an unknown. If you really wanted the truth, it feels like Jorge Polanco is the best suited candidate, which is not a knock on Jorge Polanco. I think he can play the position well and be the cleanup hitter for the Mets. It's not your prototypical cleanup hitter. And especially when you lose Pete Alonso, you're looking for that power in the middle of the lineup. Clearly a back-to-back of Jorge Polanco and Marcus Semien does not scream power in the middle of the lineup. I'm well aware. I just think for me, Simeon's a wild card. You could bat him 8th. I definitely a lot of variance with him as a player. But I think having an experienced bat in the middle of the lineup, who's not going to give you a lot of pop in Semien, but Polanco could, having that back-to-back, I don't mind that. Beatty, for me, is going to be the DH until proven otherwise. I know the Mets' David Stearns said this week after the Bo Bichette press conference that he feels when he broke off with the print media that Brett Beatty's going to get opportunities in left and he's going to get opportunities at first. As of now, I have to slot him in as the DH because there is just no other opportunity, assuming that Jorge Polanco is the opening day first baseman, which is still technically up in the air, but signs are indicating that. Alvarez behind the plate. I'm expecting a big year from Alvarez, hoping he has a big year. And for him, he needs a big year. Alvarez is a guy who's at the point where we talked about it with Salicata. He could be a bust, right? You could be at the point where you're looking at Alvarez saying, what the heck happened? This was the number 1 overall prospect in baseball, 22 coming up. See him in 23 a little bit, and then it's just been injuries. It's been rough stretches for him. We heard great things when he first got to the league, right? You had guys like Max Scherzer and Jacob deGrom saying this guy can lead a pitching staff. He's the real deal. We saw, I think, 23 home runs in his first season as well. He was up there being compared with guys like Johnny Bench for good reason, and then he just, again, completely fell off. But for me, I have Alvarez batting 7th. Luis Robert. This is a guy who, if he's hitting to the back of his baseball card, he could be a 5 or 4 hitter for the Mets. He could be that good. But that remains clearly to be seen. There is a lot of unknowns with Luis Robert at this point. But it's safe to say he could be in the back end of this lineup to begin the year. You could bat him 9th. I think a lot of people have proposed that idea. It's a good idea. I would bat him 9th, consider that as well, especially if Benj is not ready, who you see I have batting 9th and playing left. Yeah, I would start him opening day. I think we're at the point where the youth movement has been seen. We know that the youth movement works. We wanted the youth movement earlier in a lot of respects from the pitching side. If you called up Nolan McLean a couple weeks earlier last year, maybe that changes the whole outlook of the season. But on the offensive side, I'd like to see these kids early. I'd like to see Carson Bench. Reimer is expected to be up in 26, but I don't know what the future is with Reimer, especially in 26. So we have to see. But that's my 1 through 9. Let's get to the bench, right? Mark Vientos is the first bat off the bench for me. I don't think there's a scenario where they would want to trade him unless it's for something really good in return, obviously. They want to see Vientos at least for one more season. Think about the things that have happened to Mark Vientos over the course of this offseason. We'll get to one of them in a minute after all of this with Team Nicaragua and the WBC. Very big for not only the country, but Mark Vientos. But for him, he signed Mr. Scott Boras to be his agent this offseason, right? So he's chasing a bag someday whenever he hits free agency. I don't know if Mark Vientos gets extended now that he hired Scott Boras. We talk about these things, right? The future is very murky, but for me, it's the best case scenario. Have him off the bench for a few months, see what these other teams are doing. If you have to trade him to Detroit for Skubal, you wait a month or two. But Vientos off the bench provides a lot of flexibility, not only at third base, but at first. You know, even at second, if you want to put Polanco there, you want to give Simeon a day off and put Bichette there. I mean, nobody wants to play Vientos at third. Clearly, that's not what I'm even putting him down as his position set. I think first and DH. But there are opportunities for DH for him. There's opportunities for first base, and David Stearns outlined that as well in his interview with Andy Martino after the Bo Bichette press conference on Wednesday. Tyrone Taylor will be the fifth outfielder or fourth outfielder. You see the fifth outfielder, Starling Marte, going back to the title of this space or of this this live, excuse me. And then Luis Torrens, right? He's going to be behind the plate for the New York Mets, and hopefully something that we can expect to see moving forward. Six-man rotation, right? New York Mets pretty much set in their rotation unless they trade David Peterson. A lot of people getting on me that I put or didn't put David Peterson in my 1 through 5. If the Mets are rolling out a 1 through 5 right now, I would tend to think that Peterson's more of a swingman than a lock in the rotation. That's why you see I do believe Kodai Senga, and the Mets believe in Kodai Senga. They believe in Sean Manaea. They believe in Clay Holmes. These are going to be the three behind the 1-2 punch that we've now set up with Peralta and McLean. You know, this could all be different. You could knock down Senga, move up Peterson if you're a Peterson guy. I'm well aware he was the All-Star last year. By default, you could say, but it is what it is, of course. You know, well-deserving. So rotation is what it is. I don't think they're going to be adding much. I would like to see a Lucas Giolito. I would obviously like to see a Framber Valdez. If Framber Valdez's price comes down, great. But from Jim Bowden of CBS Network, he reports that the industry believes that Framber, will be going to the Orioles. That's where he's going to be ultimately ending up. So I wouldn't count out the Mets, but I wouldn't count the Mets in as a favorite to land Framber Valdez at this point. So probably this is the rotation they're rolling with, but you could still trade a Peterson. I don't think they trade a Senga. I don't think they trade a Manaea, but Peterson could shake loose. I'm still looking at that as an option this offseason, and I think you guys at home should as well. Let's look at this bullpen. I just want to preface before we get to this bullpen, yes, Luis Garcia was added as a major league contract. So odds are, unless he just completely looks awful in spring training, he will be in this pen. So probably count out Dylan Ross would be my best guess. AJ Minter going to be rocking and rolling for spring. Excited for him. Adbert Alzolay. Hopefully he looks good. Tobias Myers, who came in over in the Freddy Peralta trade, started game 3 of the wild card last year, 24 against the Mets. Good arm, good swingman. Brooks Raley earned it last year for the Mets to be in this rotation in the back end of this bullpen. High leverage for Raley. This is kind of in terms of leverage too, as you can kind of tell. Closer, setup, leverage. So that's kind of what we're looking at. Are we happy that Devin Williams is the closer? Most of us probably not, but I think we can kind of be okay with it. There is that other option of bringing in someone else still. I wouldn't rule that out completely, but I just don't know how likely it truly is at the end of the day. So keep that option open for the back end of the pen. But that's kind of what we're looking at. Pretty solidified across the board, guys. There's not much movement else to really look at besides Peterson and maybe a bullpen arm as we get ready for spring training. It's coming up, right? Spring training's coming. Getting excited for the warmer weather, especially on a day like this here in New York where it is snowing and you have to go out multiple times and snow plow and, shovel and rake and all that stuff. So it's been a crazy day, crazy time for sure in Metsland. But that's kind of the hypothetical lineup, what I'm looking at personally and saying, yeah, I think we can kind of settle with this and hopefully be all right with it. at the end of the day. Again, there's still options for a Lucas Giolito. I would be open to that. I would consider it, but definitely something to look at. There's 4 Mets in the MLB Pipeline's top 100. Want to make a quick note. Nolan McLean is number 6. Carson Benj is number 16. Jonah Tong is number 48. And A.J. Ewing is number 97 on MLB Pipeline's top 100. So an interesting note there. Obviously, this is about Starling Marte mostly, so I want to get your Starling Marte thoughts in the comments, of course. This is also a big moment, too, for Mr. Mark Vientos. Very big moment, joining Team Nicaragua. And this was kind of news that developed this week. His importance is monumental to what we're looking at for Team Nicaragua, because there's been 5 WBCs, World Baseball Classics. Team Nicaragua's only been in 1. 2026 would be their second. This is like, again, I said, a huge stepping stone for them. Adding a player like Mark Vientos, it's great. This is very, very good for them. Chesler Colbert also reached out. Former Met back in 2021. Chesler Cuthbert said that he first recruited Vientos. He said, I made my decision to play with Nicaragua at the end of November. Chesler Cuthbert started recruiting me back in 2021 when we played for the Syracuse Mets. So a nice little picture there of the two of them. And yeah, those decisions started out a long, long time ago. And Vientos made his decision. We'll let this play out, but yeah. Putting on the jersey, nice little Evo Shield jersey. Little hat. There you go. Mark Vientos joining Team Nicaragua, man. So very cool stuff. Exciting for sure. Just want to make those quick notes. I think it's important this time of year. But that's it. I would like to bring back Starling Marte as that final bat for this Mets team. And hopefully that's something that happens, right? I think there could be some real value to adding Starling Marte. Also checking off some of these other boxes here. Freddy Peralta released a statement, leaving the Brewers. He was with them since the beginning. I could read this and then we'll play the video if you guys don't mind. The Brewers organization gave me the opportunity to live my dream, and I'll always be grateful for every season, every teammate, every coach, and everyone behind the scenes who helped me along the way. To the fans, thank you for the love and support through all the years. You made Milwaukee feel like home. There will always be a true love in my heart because Milwaukee was the city where my 2 children were born, Nora and Freddie Jr., and they are the most important thing in my life. Now I'm excited for my next chapter with the New York Mets. Thank you, Milwaukee. Let's go, Mets. And Freddy Peralta on Instagram posted this, and we'll play it out. The new ace of the New York Mets. Very exciting, but also very sad with his departure from Milwaukee. Here's Freddy Peralta.
Peralta, this is a dream come true to have his parents and his girlfriend here in the stands for his Major League debut. He's one of the organization's top prospects.
That was my dream.
And that is strikeout number 13 for Freddy Peralta. Nobody has struck out more in their Brewers debut. And a historic start from the 21-year-old. 7 no-hit innings from Freddy Peralta. He didn't throw many pitches either. As good a start as any for Freddy Peralta.
Number 10 for fastball, Freddy.
9 Ks, 200 on the season. And he'll get a nice ovation.
Absolutely fabulous!
Freddy Peralta is dealing, and the Brewers have been dominant.
98 with a gas. And Peralta makes it a quick inning.
What a start it was. Fans rise to their feet in Milwaukee. The Brewers ace getting them into the 6th, and he likes it to a rousing ovation.
And Freddy Peralta, 6 scoreless innings against the Los Angeles Dodgers. I'll tell you, Freddie's been really good.
Got another one. A dozen strikeouts for Freddy Peralta. The Brewers have won the National League Central here in Milwaukee. Got him. 6 brilliant innings from Freddy Peralta on opening day in New York. And that is going to be it for Freddy Peralta, but what a day it has been.
Thank you, Milwaukee, Freddy Peralta says. Yes, very kind and very special moment. He spent his whole career there up until this point. Had his 2 kids there, as he said. Very, very touching. But yeah, it's time for him to become hopefully an ace of this staff, and it's exciting. And for how long remains to be seen. The trade deadline is going to speak volumes to the Mets in terms of Skubal, in terms of the Tigers' willingness. Maybe Miami doesn't look good out of the gate, and they've already dealt Edward Cabrera, and they say, all right, well, we'll deal Sandy too. You never know. These things could change. The Twins could look really bad. Joe Ryan could become available, right? So these are very interesting names to consider. But Freddy Peralta's a Met. That was huge news this week. Giving up Brandon Sproat, Jet Williams. Was it a lot to give up? Yes. But the Mets said they feel comfortable with the return. That means that they're okay with it being a 1-year rental. Obviously, a lot of Mets fans say, well, you got to sign this guy. He just gave up 2 top prospects. I'm not so sure. The Mets have a lot of top prospects, right? And you want to win now. That's the goal. You want to give yourself a good opportunity to extend a player like Peralta, but there's no guarantee. He's worked his whole life to hit free agency. You're going to deny him that opportunity. I mean, there's a case for both sides, right? So something to think about for sure. But Freddy Peralta, great moment there, thanking the Milwaukee fans. It's very special for sure. Also, this happened, and again, I know I'm not Ray and stuff, so I'm not here every night, and I appreciate obviously the nights that I'm here with Ray. Also like being here too, catching up, kind of solo stuff. But yes, this happened late last night. John Heyman breaking the news that Craig Kimbrel agrees to terms with the New York Mets on a minor league deal, Major League Baseball club invite to camp. Yeah, I mean, I like this move. I think there's opportunity at the back end of the pen, as we talked about. You could bring in a guy like this, and he could save 20 games for you. He's chasing 500 clearly. He has 440, so he's 37 years old. There's still opportunity for him, and he's a Hall of Famer. At the end of the day, this is a Hall of Famer, and I tweeted out last night, Mets have 3 potential Hall of Famers. A lot of people like to laugh when I bring up Hall of Famers and Mets in the same conversation. I don't know why. But yeah, Juan Soto is going to be a Hall of Famer, and people laughing that Francisco Lindor is not very much on track to be a Hall of Famer is pretty laughable myself. And then Craig Kimbrel, people saying he's not a Hall of Famer. Yeah, he's not going in as a Met, but open your eyes, people. Billy Wagner just got into the Hall of Fame. You're going to tell me that now Craig Kimbrel and Kenley Jansen and Aroldis Chapman aren't all going to get their day in Cooperstown? You bet your bottom dollar they are. So I'm good with the move. If it doesn't work out, it's an invite to camp, and it doesn't really hurt anybody. But yeah, this is an interesting move for sure. $14K per 9, 2.58 ERA, a 9-time All-Star. He's had very interesting seasons. He was with the Cubs, had a really good season. Then went to the other side of town with the White Sox, did not have a good season on the South side. Last year with Houston, didn't play very much. His last real notable season was with the Orioles in 2024. Might have been 5 too, he was there, but 24, and he got DFA'd at the end. He had like 20 saves, but like a 5.6 ERA. So there's things to like about Kimbrel. I think that spot is open if he can succeed in being something of service to the Mets. But if not, I don't know if he makes this team. But that was something definitely interesting that transpired late last night, 8:24, around 8:30. So very interesting for sure. I think that's about it from Mets land. Not really many other news. Jacob deGrom was at the Orlando Magic game last night. Missed Jake for sure. This day a year ago, Mets had a Mason Day. For those who went, certainly a fun moment and fun time, but they could improve from what I heard. Also on this day in 2020, the Mets had their first Fan Fest. So there you go. Mike Piazza's number retirement was announced on this day in 2016, 10 years ago today. And then in July, obviously, Mike Piazza got in. 4th time around on the Hall of Fame ballot, but his number being announced today for the New York Mets. Jane Jarvis, who was a longtime organist for the New York Mets, died on this day in 2010, so definitely a sad passing for sure. The Mets shift to WPIX, so they're streaming, going over there in 1999 on this day in Mets history. And then also new ownership was announced. So Doubleday was named. It was the Wilpon CEO and chairman, and then the president, I believe, was Doubleday. New ownership, of course, 1980. A lot of people not liking the Wilpon stuff, I'll tell you that. But that's about it. I just wanted to quickly get to a trivia question for you guys. Want to keep the fans involved as we get through some of these questions. But let's get ready for a little Metcast trivia. Cool. Who was the only Met to ever hit a home run in an all-star game? So I'll repeat the question. Who was the only Met to hit a home run in the all-star game? Bonus points for a pitcher as well. That's your Metcast trivia question of the day. Let me know. And let me know what year. Give me the whole question. Don't even give me the person. Give me the year. Give me the pitcher. And we will dissect that in just a minute. Let's get to some of these questions, if you guys don't mind. Sup, Mets fans, Radiant checking in. Thank you. W. Dan, thank you, Meals. Thank you, Meals, for sure. Appreciate you. Bring back Marte, Stanley says. Yeah, I would definitely bring back Starling Marte. I think there's a lot of value. Not only what he does in the clubhouse, all that stuff speaks for itself, but who he is still as a player. I think he can still give you some sneaky production for sure. If they found a decent trade for Vientos, Craig says, all for it. I'm still waiting for someone to walk through their Vientos plan with all these outfielders, add hypotheticals. Okay, so this is the plan for Vientos as of right now. Polanco's not going to play every day at first base, presumably, right? He's not going to play all 162. Say he plays 130, and there's still 32 games up in the air. Vientos probably going to get about 25 of those, maybe 30. There's opportunities at first base for him. There's opportunities at DH for Mark Vientos as well. If Brett Beatty's not playing, or you don't want a lefty in for whatever reason, you can have a left-right platoon at DH of Brett Beatty and Mark Vientos, right? Think about an upgrade from Jesse Winker and Starling Marte a year ago to Brett Beatty and Mark Vientos. It's not terrible, right? So that's kind of what I think about with Vientos this year. Apparently Bassett was the plan B to Peralta. I mean, maybe. I don't know who reported that, but if that's the case, we got to see. Vidal Brujan, of course, yes, could play first base. Good sneaky addition. Very well done. Got him for cash this week. The New York Mets did. Interesting little trade there. Also sent Cooper Criswell to the Mariners. So they're making some moves, guys. Making some moves for sure. I like Marte, Will says. I don't mind him coming back. Yeah, I don't think many of us would mind him coming back. It's just people think, is there a better usage of that spot? And I argue no. Just because you're taking away from Taylor, it's a player that's probably going to be pigeonholed into a role that isn't comfortable for them. Marte, we know what we're getting, So we'll see. And if you have to DFA him and bring up a prospect or something, you could do that too. And it would probably be justified if Marte is not producing. We don't need Marte. We need Soto to find a way to acclimate into the clubhouse after Marte left. No more holding hands. You're here for 14 more years. No thanks on Marte. Get a better fit. Yeah, Rady, I mean, I get your point. We don't have to coddle to Juan Soto. I get how that looks and all that. I'm well aware. I don't think it's necessarily that. I think it is a bonus, a natural bonus that most other players can't give you. But it also is something that he is a good player, right? He had a 111 OPS plus. He was good in the clutch last year. Can still give you a good arm. So there's still some things. And I think, again, that fifth outfielder role is very important. I don't want Taylor to be a fifth outfielder. I kind of want to see him play a good amount too. I think there's something there as well, but we'll see. Radiant, the bigger picture is finding other players who can be the 25th and 26th men. Why not look for a diamond in the rough as opposed to a DH only 275 hitter? We have enough clubhouse guys now. No clogs, please. Yeah, I get it. You don't want to clog anything. You want to have those back end of the bench guys be good, not just players like a Marte. I get it. Drop Robert in the 4-hole. If he hits Jersey, he could very well be in that 4-hole for the Mets. I'm not ruling that out for sure. 87 win team, Radiant says. BP need help. Bullpen needs help. Starting pitching still mediocre, behind 1 and 2, beyond 1 and 2. SM wouldn't make half of the rosters. SM. Sean Manaea. Okay, I'm getting there. Sean Manaea wouldn't make half of the rosters in the majors. Senga is a walking injury, and we'll see how Holmes and Peterson hold up by August. Wow, there's a lot there. I'll go from the end to the beginning. I think Peterson, if he's here, should be fine to hold up. I know he looked last year like he was gassed. I think the same goes for Clay Holmes. I know he's still adjusting to being a starter, but he was the first guy down to spring training last year. I imagine he'll be one of the first guys down there this year. We already know that Carson Bench is down in the PSL area, so those guys are hungry. Senga, he feels like a walking injury. I agree. If Senga can pitch and stay healthy, he's elite. I mean, he could be the 3, no doubt, but that is certainly a question. And then I like Sean Manaea a lot. I'm a big Sean Manaea guy, as you guys know. He wouldn't make half the rosters. I disagree. I do. I think the new arm slot with Manaea, he had a bad setback last year. He didn't have a good spring training, and that's going to hold you back. So I think you're going to see an improvement in that regard, him getting off on the right foot. Maybe an uptick in velocity. I get the bone spurs in his elbow. You want him to get the surgery, but I'm going to resort to the player and what they feel is best for themselves. If Manaea feels that he could still pitch without the bone spur injury, then I think I have to make him take that decision and make it for himself, But I appreciate it, Radiant. Great stuff. Craig, Beatty will be better than Marte in left field. I mean, probably, right? I would assume. But you can have them both be on the same roster. I don't think, that we're not going to be forcing Beatty to play left. We'll see how it looks in spring training. But I like Marte just being there for the bench to steal some bags. I like his speed over Beatty. So we'll see. It's tough. It's a very tough decision. 82 wins, Michael says. I hope not. Radiant again, Peralta 2.9 ERA, McLean 3.1, Manaea 4.5, Peterson 3.6, Senga 4.0, Holmes 4.0, ERA for Mets starting pitchers. Maybe. Could be right. Steven, Robert leading off. See? Okay, so you wouldn't be the first person that I've heard bring that up, but it's a very good idea. I just don't know how likely it is. You have to have him hit, Steve. He's got to hit. Whether we talk about him batting 4 or batting 1, he's not moving out of the 8 or 7 spot unless he hits. Lindor batting 4. I like that we agree on Simeon at 5. Polanco 6. That's probably better for him. Yeah, this changes a lot. Vientos, Benj, Alvarez. I don't mind that lineup at all, Steven. I really don't. Gallen? Yeah, with the qualifying offer, Craig, I don't know. You can get around the qualifying offer stuff, but you have to sign 2. I don't know if the Mets have even signed 1. If they've signed 1, it might have to be 3 that you get to. So there's still 2 moves that they have to get to with Gallen to get around that qualifying offer penalty, but that's what's holding me back from signing him right now. Why would we bring Marte back? Well, Tiff, I kind of outlined it. I just think he's a good player for this team. 111 OPS plus, veteran, good arm, righty bat. And now we're too righty heavy. Yeah, I know. We were too lefty heavy. Now we're too righty heavy. Oh, man. Why do I always forget about Beatty? Don't forget about Beatty this year, Chris. He's going to be a big, big player for this team, no doubt. Lindor, Bichette, Soto, Polanco, Simeon, Beatty, Alvarez, and Benj. Austin Hayes. Yeah, it could be. I want Quan. Donovan, Butch saying, yeah, it could be too. I'm not going to rule out Quan. I just don't think that's likely. Donovan, same thing. Don't think that's likely. But these things can change, right? So we have to see. Left field last year was Nimmo. Yeah, it wasn't good, but this is an upgrade. Any of these guys that you're putting in there is going to be an upgrade for sure. So just try to keep that in the back of your mind. Keep that in the back of your mind. I'm surprised that nobody knows the answer to the trivia question. It's kind of concerning to me. Lee Mazzilli. But I'll take the win on that one. 1978 off Jim Kern. Only Mets a homer in the All-Star game. No room for Marte on the roster. Could be, right? Could very well be. these are things we have to see. They need a left fielder. Yeah, I don't know. I think Bench could be the guy opening day. I do. But that remains to be seen, guys. As a lot of this stuff still remains fluid. Just wanted to hop on, say a couple things in Metland. Make sure to like, subscribe. Ray is doing a lot of great things behind the scenes to make sure a lot of these guests are lined up. Really big show coming up this week for you guys. Excited to break that down over the coming days. And it's just been an awesome time. But yes, the Mets definitely need a left fielder for sure. For sure. Do you think the Mets can get Framber Valdez? Manuel, I don't. I don't know if his asking price is going to come down to 3 or 4 years. If it does, the Mets can easily get him and kick out David Peterson. And imagine that with Framber Valdez and Freddy Peralta and Nolan McLean. That would be serious for sure. I just don't know. I think the Orioles are really best suited to get him, and they can compete on the long-term deal. But we'll see. We'll see. A lot of good questions, guys. A lot of good comments today. I appreciate everybody being in here. Over 1,100 people, 1,200 people. You guys are the best. Nice little snow day. Enjoy your day off tomorrow. I know people got to go to school, still go to work, but it'll be nice to be there from home, I imagine. Maybe even Tuesday as well, depending on some of this snow. Definitely to keep an eye out for. But that's kind of it in Mets land, guys. You kind of know about the trades, this team lining up. A lot of the hypotheticals can become reality at this point. It's just about how these pieces piece into this lineup. Where does Robert bat? Where does Simeon bat? Where do you bat Bichette? Where do you bat Soto, Lindor? All very interesting things. What does Vientos play? Is he even on this team? Is Peterson on this team? Where do these guys slot in the rotation? Back end of the bullpen? And Brett Beatty, right? There's a lot of unknown with Brett Beatty, but in a good way. Brett Beatty will be on this team opening day, right? He will be here. He will be a factor. He will take Jeff McNeil's spot as that utility player, and you roll from there. So that's kind of what we're looking at. And just stay positive, Mets fans. I've seen a lot of negativity about this team. This is a good team, right? This team's going to win a lot of games. This team is going to give you a lot of reasons to be excited, a lot of energy at the ballpark most nights. I expect it to be very similar to last year in that regard. I don't expect 3 million fans. They have to show us something before we have those conversations again. But yes, I expect this team to be very, very good. That was an awful connection issue. Sorry about that. I expect this Mets team to be very good. I do. So I think that's kind of where we're at. Stay hopeful. Stay blessed. Stay safe. Make sure to clean off the top of your cars. Don't be that guy driving around on the northern state with 6 inches of snow on the top of his vehicle. That is not good. And just, keep an eye out for new moves, because I think some of them are still coming. Clearly not big moves, but I think some pieces are still on the way for the Mets. I do. Anthony checking in. One of our members don't want Marte. I get it, Anthony. I know. There's a lot of people that feel the same way. And people say there's no room, like Michael says here. I totally get both sides of the conversation. So where's Kimbrel? I don't know where Kimbrel is. I think the Mets are lining up their opportunities for these players to be meeting the media soon. I know that they're lining up the Peralta press conference as we speak. I know that the Luis Robert one, they want to get done. A lot of this stuff is tricky. But the Kimbrel, I don't know if they're going to have a press conference for a minor league signing. That'd be my best guess. But Butch, we'll see, right? But probably not. Guy never played first base and another third base. We will see. Trust the process. The process is stupid. We'll see. I mean, we could all be stupid sitting here on Metcast right now and thinking that this team could be good, right? We could be very stupid in thinking that. I think this team will be all right. I'll put it at 90.5 wins as the over-under. I'm probably taking the over at 91, probably. But 89 to 91 is about where I'm at as looking at the Mets right now. But stay positive, guys. It's not going to get easier. This offseason is still, a month from being over. Pitchers and catchers reporting soon. Got the WBC coming, which is exciting. Very excited for that. And hopefully we stay safe throughout these next couple days, couple weeks. And hopefully the Mets continue to do the same. Everybody, thank you for joining another edition of Metcast. I am Dan Bartels. Make sure to like and subscribe. make sure to do some of these couple solo shows here and there. I know Ray is flooding with the content, which is great as well, as he continues to do. But I got to do my part as well. You guys know what I mean? I got to stay on top of it as well. I'm here. I'm not sleeping, right? I'm not David Stearns either. But, yes, we are here. We're active and staying on top of this stuff as best we can, Guys, thank you. Another great edition. Like, subscribe. You guys are the best. And hopefully the Mets make some moves. Let's see. Let's hope. You got to believe, Mets fans. Talk